Today we have a 2001 Honda Civic. We'll be replacing the AC compressor. So the AC compressor is located right there at the bottom below the alternator. The first thing we're going to do before we actually start messing with the AC compressor, we're going to pretty much remove all the Freon if there's Freon in the system. If you have a leak, don't worry about it. But with the low side and the high side here, we're going to go ahead and use our tool to release it all. Once we do that, go ahead and unplug it. This will be this cable right here directly in front of the vehicle. Just push on a tab, pull out. After we do that, we're going to go ahead and use a number 10 socket with probably a swivel if you want, and remove the two nuts here and here, 10 millimeter, to remove the two AC lines, the high and low side. So we'll go ahead and do that. Once we do so, we're going to lift up the vehicle and get to the front side of the vehicle here by removing the tire on the left side of the vehicle. Now with the 19 millimeter socket or impact gun, we're going to remove the front tire. Now with the tire removed, we're going to go ahead and pull these two little plastic tabs out and remove this cover. There should also be one at the bottom, but I'm just going to pretty much swing it to the side here. So let's get this open and it'll expose the AC compressor. So after removing the cover here, just going to expose the AC compressor right here. With the number 12, we're going to loosen this bolt right here. Once we loosen that, we're going to use a number 10 over here and pretty much release the tension on the belt holding the AC compressor, the crank, and the alternator there. So just loosen this up, and then we're going to use this number 10 on the side here to move it over, which will release the tension. So after loosening that tensioner and removing the drive belt from the AC compressor, we're going to go ahead and start removing the 4 bolts holding the AC compressor in place. So you come to the front side of the vehicle, you'll see 2 at the bottom, as well as 2 at the top right there. Those two bolts are number 12, so we're going to use the number 12 socket and a ratchet and remove the 4 bolts holding the AC compressor in place. And just slide it right out. So I have the 4 bolts removed from the AC compressor here. As you can see, the 2 up top. Ready to remove the 2 at the bottom. A little FYI, when removing the 2 bolts at the top, I did have to go back to the top of the vehicle. It made it a little easier than doing it from the bottom. I did get the bottom bolts removed from the bottom though, so now that those 4 bolts are removed, we're just going to slide the AC compressor out this way and get ready to change it out. So we have another used compressor here that we're going to be throwing in actually for the customer. So the best way to do it is pretty much turn it to the side like this, slide it in, then rotate it back up. So I'm going to go ahead and slide it in that direction, and then we're going to bolt it down. So I've got my AC compressor mounted back in. I went ahead and just threw my high and low pressure lines in place. So now I'm going to tighten those 10 millimeter bolts in down there. I'm also going to go ahead and plug her up back over here. Where did it go? Somewhere around here. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten those 10 millimeter bolts back in. Plug this back in as well, and then from there we're going to go back to the front of the engine behind the left wheel and reinstall the drive belt as well. After that, we're going to vacuum the system out and go ahead and add Freon in. So let's tighten these in and then we'll get to the next step. So we're back in front of the engine behind the left wheel. Went ahead and put the drive belt back on the AC compressor. It's connected up top to the alternator as well as the crankshaft pulley here. Now with my number 10, I'm going to keep tightening over like so until we get a nice snug fit. And then once we do so, we're going to tighten this bolt up here and we'll be pretty much done with this. So I've got my drive belt tightened down. My tensioner is back in place. Earlier I made a mark to where it's supposed to be. You can do the same or just let it tighten up to like this much slack here. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this cover back on here, put the tire back on, lower the vehicle, and vacuum out the system. So let's get this going. Alright, also closed everything up on the side here in front of the engine with the AC compressor. Hooked up my gauge to the low and the high side here. And now we're just going to vacuum the system out. So as you can see, it's vacuuming out. So we're going to let this run for about 30 minutes and then shut it off and make sure the system is holding. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and load her up with Freon and we're done. So thanks for watching, y'all. Please like and subscribe. More videos to come.